This is my death journal. Now, I keep it near me most of the time. I take it to work. I have it here in the house, and I write in it fairly frequently, not every day. And people will say, "Well, what's that?" Well, I'll tell them that's my death journal, and they say, "Why do you call it your death journal?" And so I'm going to explain that. I'm going to talk about ways I use my fountain pens, and my death journal is one of them. Now, I have 3 different journals that I'm working on at any given time. It's one of the reasons that I got into fountain pens. Now, the reason I call this my death journal, and it's one of several volumes. I get nice journals at a nice office supply store, a beautiful gift shop called Tabula Rasa. This one in particular is from Peter Popper Press. I love it. And I try to write really well when I'm, keep my handwriting as nice as I can. I don't have really good handwriting, but I try to do my best in this journal. So the reason the title Death Journal was given to this series of journals is because I was reading in a book one day a few years ago that journaling, in the author's opinion, and I don't disagree or agree with this opinion, it's just something I read, that journaling was a very arrogant thing to do, because the idea that 50 or 100 years from now, some descendant or some person is going to think, gee, I wonder what that old fart was doing every day in his life. I bet I want to be able to sit down and read what he was doing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of the year 2025. And I laugh, I think that's true. 50 years from now, I don't think there will be many people that will be thinking about me at all. 100 years from now, most people will have no idea who I ever even was. Now, I have second great grandparents that I don't even know anything at all about them. I have great grandparents that I know very little about. I have a second great grandparent that kept a journal, and I've had the opportunity to look through it. Very interesting. I love that he mentioned my great grandfather, who I never met. My grandmother was 10 or 15 years old when my second great grandfather died, and in his journal he never says a word about grandchildren that I remember. So I mean, yeah, it's interesting. Maybe this will be interesting to somebody someday. Maybe. And here's why I think it might be my death journal. What I write in here, I don't write date entries. I don't write down today is Wednesday the 5th. I don't write that. When I have something on my mind that I want to write about, so a thought, an opinion, a feeling, something that stands out to me, I grab this death journal and I write about a page or two about that feeling. Here's a blue one. And this is from Paper Blanks. I got this at Tabula Rasa as well. Here's an example. One of my entries is titled, "It's Okay." In it I write about people telling you when you're going through something hard, everything's okay, and how much it really is, how time passes and everything's okay. And there are other people that will tell you, oh, you're really in trouble. You really got everything mixed up. You're doing everything wrong. You've really got your life is really a mess. And this entry is about my realization that it's okay. It's going to be okay. The hard things will pass. When people tell you when you're going through something difficult, it's okay, they're right. It's going to be okay. This is an entry on history, talking about how life becomes new and the things that are familiar to you become history. In it, I write personal things. I have resolved to shut up. Too many people I love are bothered by my big mouth. That felt like something I wanted to say in this journal. Here's an entry on Thanksgiving, my feelings about Thanksgiving. I obviously wrote it on Thanksgiving Day. And then this is the other thing I do. I put in entries in this death journal under a title, under a series, a title called For the Ones I Love, and then I'll write like this one, for the ones I love, my sister Jill. My sister Jill passed away last year, and this was me writing about her. One of the other entries I wrote in this one, when my son and daughter-in-law told us they were expecting a baby in June, I wrote, for the ones I love, baby coming in June. And I wrote my feelings about how I felt about finding out that I was going to have a grandchild. And will that little guy one day want to read about how I felt? Here's an entry called Fair. It's not fair. I've heard that so many times in my life. And surely I've felt that way. I've known so many outcomes and moments that just didn't seem fair. But I have to bag on myself. Sorry, my handwriting. I have to bag on myself just a little bit here. I've understood since I was very young that things sometimes just don't turn out the way you thought they would or should. Things being fair. Here's an entry, 2023. That was written right before, around Christmas of 2023. Comfort, here's an entry called Comfort. I love comfort to the point where I've been called lazy. I like ASMR things. I like tickles on your back, a loved one who will play with your hair while you're snuggling. Here's one called I'm Sorry. I'm sorry, I really am. I don't think I ever really understood who I was, and I didn't understand who Julie was. This was people, not that I had done anything wrong. I'd been discussing with a group of people the challenges that my wife and I faced throughout our marriage. Every couple that's married has beautiful things about their marriage that they cherish and things that were difficult. So my death journal. So let me say now, I have 3 journals. This journal is my formal journal, and I don't write in it every day. I try to use my best handwriting, and I try to think about what I'm going to say, make a good formal entry. It's a very thick journal. It's taken me years to get through it. It's nice. I really like it. And this one I also got at Tabula Rasa. It's got a nice picture of Vincent van Gogh. I love to paint. Van Gogh is my favorite artist. I got this there, and it's my daily journal. This goes everywhere with me. It's in my work bag. I grab it and make entries as often as I want. This is my daily journal. This is the one I scratch out what I'm thinking. Now, here's the final answer to the thought of, is journal keeping arrogant? This journal, my daily journal, when I pass away, I wouldn't be surprised if someone just throws it away. And it's also just one volume of many, because I fill one up and I buy a new journal. It goes with me everywhere, and I fill it out just when I have my daily entries. I don't write in any of my journals because I have the arrogance to think that somebody's going to read it one day and find great inspiration. That's not what I'm thinking at all. I have noticed that when I write in my journal, either my daily entry, a more formal entry, or my death journal, it makes me sit and think about the things I'm feeling when something happens. Something negative in the family and society with my friends, something really positive, joyous, the birth of a child. I sit down to make a journal entry, and as you're sitting down to write with a very lovely fountain pen, I find that I stop and think about, how do I really feel? Now, I've heard people talk about journaling. If you feel something really negative, should you omit that so that somebody someday doesn't read the negative thing you felt about something that happened that involved other people and sad things that happened in relationships, things where people were offended, feelings were hurt? Well, I pause and I think about, how do I really feel about this thing that's happened, or this day, or the events of this day, or the events of the last few days, if it's something big. And I write down what I feel, and it helps me sort out how I really do feel about things. And so some of my journal entries are kind of fun because I'll talk about something really positive, And if it triggers something melancholy, I'll throw that in. People, if they sit down and actually read it word for word, they'll think, man, he was crazy. He's talking about how happy he is about this, and then he enters something, puts an entry that in the middle of it that's very melancholy and sad, self-pity, that kind of thing. So I heard somebody on YouTube on a fountain pen channel talk about how sometimes people who love fountain pens, and I can't explain the attraction. I've loved fountain pens since I was a small child. The idea of, I like the idea of pens, you know, in a pen holder where they're sticking up like this, but fountain pens with their nibs. And I got into it because my son wanted to study medicine, and I was so proud. I wanted him to have a pen in his pocket that was worthy of the studies he was taking on. And so I went to Tabula Rasa and I looked at the fountain pens, and I thought, well, I don't know, for somebody, a medical student, I don't know that that's really practical. So I got him a roller ball, but a nice one, because, you know, it seems like when I was growing up, when somebody accomplished something big, got a big fancy job or a degree or something, they'd get them a set of cross pens, pen and pencil, the silver one. And that was like a real common gift thought, and I always thought that was really cool. Somebody would get a set of cross pens or pen and pencil, and that always seemed really cool to me. And so when I saw in Tabula Rasa all of the beautiful fountain pens, I really want one. And I've talked about this in other videos. My handwriting was so poor, I was left-handed, that I bought a pen, and I started learning to write with my right hand, and my handwriting has improved unbelievably. It's just so much better, and I really enjoy writing with my fountain pens. And so my 3 journals, that's one way that I use my fountain pens. I also have pen pals that I write to, that I cherish, and I buy nice stationery there at Tabula Rasa. I write letters to my family members on special occasions, grandchildren, put a postcard and a letter, write them a letter, and something they can get in the mail. My children, siblings, if on special occasions, I write a handwritten letter and mail it out. That's how I get the best use out of my fountain pens, and that's the way I journal. Now, some of you journal differently in different ways, and I've watched lots of videos. If you have thoughts about interesting ways to journal, a lot of your journals involve sketching. I'm not good at pen or pencil sketching. It's something I'd like to learn, but it's a very worthwhile way to go about it. So if you have thoughts about alternative ways of thinking about journaling, I'm all ears. And so anyway, that's it. My death journal. Writing about things after I'm gone. If you picked up one of my journals and wanted to really find out what are the serious thoughts that go through my head, this is one of the last ones I wrote. Not me. I wrote it about some things that were being said and done that seemed oppressive to certain groups and other people, and I thought, not me. I need to have the courage to stand up and say, don't include me when you talk degradingly about other people. Not me. I won't participate. I won't oppress other people. And it's something that I think about now since I made that entry. I'm not going to be an oppressor. I'm going to be an includer. I'm going to be a supporter of other people. And even if the societal norm says we've got to oppress this group of people or that group of people, my answer is no, wait a minute, not me. Don't count me in. And I made a journal entry about it. So that's my death journal. Share with me, if you would, how you journal and how you use your fountain pens.